right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast where we are now doing comedy. My name is Silas.
And I'm Aaron.
And I'm Zane.
Someone's like listening to this, like they've done comedy since the beginning. They think they have good advice.
True.
Idiots.
That's Mom. Thanks, Mom.
All
Shout
right.
out to my wife.
So today we have another question
not really.
from Renee. And Renee says, hello, Silas. You're my favorite. I didn't write the question.
Jules.
All right, Jules, we're on to you.
My teenage sons and my teenage daughter tend to come home from school with these fun ideas of what it is to. Okay, all right, we got to restart.
You can
this.
speak.
I should have like.
We're not
written down
restarting.
First of all, I was like, where's this question? It's
I was,
not
I was
written
making up the
down.
question.
Oh, yeah, restarting. All right, clap again.
Come on. Wait, can you do the whole like again?
Okay. All right. So today we have an interesting topic. We are talking about societal. No, we
And
already
I'm
did
Zane.
that.
I thought you said we're restarting.
No, we just cut a little bit out.
Let's restart.
Oh no, we're good.
No, I didn't realize
it's
that.
time to
Now
restart.
just restart it.
No,
Yeah, just
no,
go from the top.
that
Take it
really
from
is
the top.
good.
It will look weird. We're trying to help Gabe. Gabe, I'm for you, brother. Gabriella. See?
He's not even paying attention.
Oh,
Here
we go.
He's trying
The
to
real
hold
start.
it all in.
this is it.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Silas,
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Zane.
and we are having trouble focusing.
We
but
are. Zins.
today we're going to jump straight into it. We are talking
I
about
don't do them.
why parents should have legalistic standards in their home for what their kids wear.
Excellent. Good. This sounds like
dum,
1970s evangelicalism.
Amen. Have you ever
Let's
heard
go
of
back.
fire and brimstone?
Oh, yeah. That's my dad. Growing up.
Your dad's named
His
Fire
name's
and
Fire
Brimstone.
Should have
Brimstone.
been. Nah, he wasn't
I
too
got
much
it
of that.
first.
But, yeah.
Dang it.
We were
No.
legalistic, though.
Today we're talking about cultural trends. What are they? Are they good for your children? Are they bad for your children? When do you care and when do you not care?
Good question.
Zane?
Well, we sort of broached this topic. This topic a
Breached.
few episodes ago when we talked about music and
You are what you
that type of
stream.
stuff. You Are What You Stream is very popular. You can go back and watch it if you want
Yeah.
to.
He was all into Taylor Swift, in case you're wondering.
But I
Lots
thought
of
it
hits.
might be valuable for us to kind of broaden the conversation a little bit and just cover cultural trends in general. So that could be music, but I think a lot of times it also includes clothing choices or piercings
Hair.
or tattoos or hair.
Glasses.
Yes. Yeah, because
millennial
we went
glasses
from
with no lenses.
Shaving your eyebrows.
yes,
Yeah.
the little notch.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I like the notch. No, I like
What?
it. It's a Tongan. You know what Tongans are? It's like a race. They're like
people. Yeah.
they're almost like Samoan almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do it and they have like crazy hairstyles and I think it's kind of cool. But I don't like it when it's like a 14-year-old white kid.
Oh, okay, good.
Sorry.
Just check.
So this is all going to be based on what Silas likes. and
Yes, it
that's-
is.
so,
Well, that goes into the word legalism.
yeah, legalism.
So Silas is a living example of legalism.
So we've
Excellent.
had
What else?
we have like a pendulum swing every couple decades, it seems like. So, you know, you were mentioning the 70s earlier.
Yeah.
And I think
I
the
was there.
70s, you know, there's this big response in the Christian community against what the culture's doing, which is just like crazy. Like they're super just out there with their way they dress, what they're doing, what they're listening to. And so you have this group of Christian parents that swing to the other side where it's like all of this is evil, wicked.
Really short, tight haircuts on men.
Yep.
Only dresses on women. Obviously, no tattoos. I mean, there's a lot of good things in there as well. Maybe all those things.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
I was talking to a friend last night. We were watching their kids, and at the end of the night, we're just talking about our college experiences. Because I went to a Christian college, a small liberal arts college, and they have a lot of standards when it comes to dress and how you present yourself, which coming from my background didn't bother me at all. But there was a lot of people who
pushback.
pushed back, were constantly upset about those rules because they felt like this is just legalism, right? Like this isn't right or wrong. This is just what you think is the standard, but it's not based on anything other than your opinion. So we want to address that today because every parent, I think, has a standard that they prefer when it comes to these things. But I think more and more it's harder for parents to explain or stick to their own standards or
justify.
enforce or justify their standards biblically, because there is such a focus on the heart of your child, right? Not the outward appearance, which is good and biblical. But let's talk about the nuance of that a little bit.
Okay, so it does matter. So there is a chapter, and maybe Silas will put a link to it in the show notes. There's a book called Future Men, oddly enough, written by Douglas Wilson back in, I don't know, probably the early 80s. But he has an appendix in that book at the very end called Contempt for Cool. And probably the best chapter in that book, in my opinion, at least. I've recommended it to many, many people to read. And it just talks about like the hair that young men are trying to like wear to make a statement. The hat, how they wear the hat, where it sits on their head, what kind of hat it is, how far down it's pulled. And we see this at Future Men. We have all kinds of rules on dress code stuff because, right, it's not about a kid keeping his head warm with a hat or about like a function of, the pants needing to protect the kid's legs if he's, doing some kind of, a job that requires, leg protection, like you're working in the woods, let's say, and, thorns and stuff. It's about making a statement about who I am. So the chapter's all about if you're finding who you are, your identity in how you look, there's probably a problem there. So with the parents, what we're trying to push on this podcast is you can have your preferences. There's nothing wrong with, it's your family, do what you want. But know the hills you want to die on and know the reasons. And I would really say, if you just let your kids blow with every wind of culture that comes back and forth, it's going to come with some consequences. And you can, because some of these aren't, like you said, just really black and white issues. Biblically speaking, it really is like an opinion or a cultural, phenomenon, or, whatever the norm is at the time. But it does affect your kid specifically. And that's where we need to think, okay, so how am I being the best steward of this kid with these different things, from the shoes he wears to the hairstyle he likes to choose, or she, right? So there's all kinds of issues we're going to be dealing today. We'll talk a little bit about modesty. We'll talk a little bit about where does their identification come from, right? Who is it automatically setting them up to be around or not be around? And does that matter? So other thoughts before we jump in, or just jump in somewhere?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we could jump to first is just kind of framing why this issue even matters. Because I think that's what a lot of teenagers are going to go to. They're like,
sure.
Why does it matter? Why do you care? It's going to change in the next 10 years anyways.
Right.
And I think one of the things when I was struggling with this as a teenager, not very long ago,
pretty long ago,
one of the things I was always frustrated with when my parents would have a standard that seemed subjective to me, was I would look at pictures from when they were kids and I would see the things that they wore. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's too different, you know?
Yep. You mentioned the 70s, flared pants.
Yeah.
Coming back.
Long hair on boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
The short shorts girls were wearing and guys were wearing too back then. It's like, where do you get this standard? Like, why is this such a big deal? So I think this really is going to get into discipleship a lot.
Yes.
Because you can set a standard and say, this is what I expect as a parent. You have that right. And honestly, it's expected of you. It should be expected of you as a parent. But when you're dealing, especially with teens, and they're starting to get into this area where they're picking out their own clothes, they're wanting to hang out with their friends, they're doing all these things, right? And they're being judged for how they're presenting themselves constantly. It's going to become a really big deal. So I think starting by encouraging your kids to have the right outlook on these things, what you wear and how you present yourself can be worship, and it is worship. So what does that connection look like?
1 Corinthians 6, 19 through 20. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. And I think because you said very correctly, which is what you wear is worship, and you're worshiping yourself or you're worshiping God. And I think, not to say that, a certain pair of shorts is going to do it, but I think what you were saying, which is this is such a discipleship issue.
Yeah. Because
if it's not, then your only other option is legalism. Your only other option is, nope, you can't wear that because it's 2 inches above your knee. Or, you're going to create these crazy standards that aren't rooted in anything but probably the reality is your preferences, which can be just as bad. You can find just as much identity in dressing modestly or dressing, we don't wear buttons, as you can in wearing the opposite or not wearing the opposite. And so I think that's why the discipleship's massive here, because a parent can be just as blinded, like mom. Not the mom's blinded.
You're
but
saying
like,
mom is blinded?
No, but she has this. She hates. You know what I'm gonna say here?
Oh yeah, wearing hats in the house.
Wearing hats in the house,
Yep.
and probably because Grandpa hated it.
That's the only reason.
And it's funny because like Jules, when we first got married, sometimes I forget, but I take my hat off and go. She's like, "Why do you always do that?" I'm like, "Well, my mom hates it." She's like, "It's not wrong." I'm like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with wearing a hat in the house." I think culturally at some point it was.
Yeah, I don't know the whole history of that. It has to do with like taking off your hat in the house of God, or when you pray, or at funerals, things of that nature. And it just carried over into when you're in the home, take your hat off. And honestly, it probably is. You feel more. This person's like naked or so, not naked in the sense of like, but like they're more open, they're more exposed.
Yeah, but it's not like it's not wrong in the sense of like if I walk into Zane's house and I'm wearing a hat, and they're like, "Oh, we've been disrespected, and Silas hates us," or like whatever. And like even at college, even at college right now at C of O, you still can't wear your hat in the main cafeteria, and it's kind of like one of those things that it's kind of funny because it's a rule, but it's not like.
It's just a rule.
Yeah, it's just an opinion.
So here's the thing. So we were talking to a kid this week about this because I cut his hair, and I know for a fact this kid was way hiding behind his hair because it was always down in his eyes. It was very much a part of like, this is my persona. How dare you mess with my persona? And I'm like, who are you? Right? But like, I get it. This is your hair, and I understand that. And we do cut all the boys' hair at Future Men. And we cut it off their ears and off the back of their collar and then out of their eyes. That's it. That's our standard. And I always tell them, no matter where we go, I just don't want you to be like someone notices you because of your hair.
Yeah.
That's just it. That's the standard. It's like no one's drawing their attention to you by the way you look. And whether that's your t-shirts, your pants, your hair, they wouldn't look twice in the sense of like, why is that person trying to stand out? Right? Because we're not making any statements with our appearance. It's just, hey, we're just a person. We're just here to do whatever we're doing. Your character, your personality, your work ethic, those things, right, make you stand out. Now, can you look nice for a date? Of course. Can you dress up for church or like a date again, right? Whatever. Fantastic. Comb your hair, look wonderful. But like, if that's your deciding factor, you got to think about it. I mean, Elvis Presley, it was. And it's like, okay, you know what? And he's an icon and it became part of his act. I don't really care. We have a guy that goes to our Bible study. We all call him Mohawk Man, right? He's got a giant mohawk. He's not the least bit worried that like, I don't know. He didn't care now. Maybe in high school he did. Now it's like, I got to wear this haircut because now that's my business and everybody knows
his whole business off of it.
Yeah.
Like it's all based
he
off
don't
of this
care.
one thing.
If he did, if you were around him and thought, man, he really cares about this, it'd be kind of sad. It's like but he could care less. It's like he's very confident in like who he is as a man, and it's like that's just this dumb like, yeah, it's my business now. It's like, okay, wonderful. I don't care. Yeah. So with these kids, right, they're becoming something, and it's like they're going to outgrow, right? They're going to outgrow their trend, whatever it is. But it's like, is there any kind of collateral damage that came along with that trend?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. And that's what I hope you parents are asking. It's like, okay, so my kid has this long bushy hair that hangs down in his eyes. Is it wrong? No. Might impede his seeing, where he's walking or driving. But in theory, it's not, it's not the end of the world. But if it limits who he hangs out with to those kind of kids only, and because there's truth in this, the kids that have that look, maybe there are certain characteristics of those kids. It can be drugs. It can be laziness. It can be, whatever. Just, bad hygiene. It's like, well, now your kids are getting lumped into that as well. And people are judging you, whether you like it or not. And you say, I don't care if somebody judges me. It's like, well, we're supposed to care. As Christians, our light does matter. So you just got to think about those things.
Well, and on that, 1 Timothy talks literally about what you wear.
And what does it say?
It's talking about women in this context. But chapter 2, verses 9, starting 9, it says, likewise also that women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works. So what it seems like Paul is emphasizing here is not just, I think when we think of modesty, we think immediately of like, make sure, her breasts aren't
Dresses
showing,
to the ankles.
yeah. Yeah. Like you're covered up, all your private parts,
And then some.
Yeah. But modesty also means that we're not dressing elaborately, or like you said earlier, we're not dressing in order to gain attention or some sort of status from what we're wearing. And I think that kind of cuts the legs out from under a lot of the motivations why teenagers want to dress the way they want to dress, because it is a status thing, like so much. These kids that walk around with like the Jordans or the Air Force Ones, they want the logo to show. They want them to be like, look like they're brand new. Like they just, and they brag about how much money they spent on this one pair of shoes. So it's not just this, I want this freedom to be able to choose what I want to wear, but there's actually like an identity tied to this. And they start associating their value as a person with the brands that they own and that they wear.
So discipleship with that kid with those shoes, right? If you're talking to him or her, because it goes both sexes, and you're saying things like, hey, let's look at those shoes. So you put them on the table in front of you, and maybe they're now 4 weeks old and they're still in really good shape, or maybe they're getting beat up, whatever, right? But you say, okay, if somebody wants to be around you, or this girl now likes you because of the shoe, okay, what does it say? And again, you don't have to, as a parent, necessarily take that shoe away. If they're characterized by every time they have to have that shoe, you got a problem.
Yeah.
If it's like they got it now, they wanted it so bad, and you let them spend their own money and get it, right? And now you're talking about it, and you're like, okay, if truly those friends pick you because of those shoes, or you think that girl picks you because of those shoes, what does that say about her in terms of like, what kind of a wife will she be? What kind of a mom will she be to your kid? And he may be thinking, I'm 14, what do I care? You're like, well, this is where you grow their character. This is where you're talking to them about the things that are going to make them a better man or a woman for somebody to be a husband or wife. And it's like, I don't want a woman who like is only happy if she has the most expensive of X, right? I sat by a woman on a plane recently, and I noticed on her lap she had this purse, and I have no idea what purses are worth. I could care less. But I looked at this purse and I thought, I bet it's expensive. And I was just kind of cracking up inside thinking, who cares? It's this bag on your lap full of like crap you probably don't even need, but whatever, right? Women have purses. But it just struck me as kind of odd that it's like, you can have just as a pretty one with no name, with no like thing on it, right? And it's like, and I'm probably guilty of some of the same things. So we have to be really super careful and just watch and say, what are we like sort of like conditioning our kids for? Are we prepping them for like, hey, look, man, we don't buy always the cheapest, crappiest clothes because we're that family that like, we don't care about the worldly stuff. That's a message too. And it probably isn't the best message. Discipleship, right? Modesty is ginormous. Why they're doing it is also big, right? Like in terms of like, what are they trying to portray in themselves? These are hard questions, and there shouldn't be, I don't think, one size fits all for every hairstyle, every dress, every whatever.
Sort of, but before we jump into that, let me say the big issue here is identity, right? Is your kid finding identity in what they wear, what they listen to, what they're doing? And we did a whole episode on that like 4 or 5 episodes ago. It's called something about identity. So go listen to that one because we're going to kind of come out of that. We're not going to rehash all that. But I think the most important thing here is what you just said, which is discipleship, because it really can help you understand where your kid's heart is at, because there's nothing wrong with really loving a pair of Michael Jordans. There's nothing wrong with like a 12-year-old who thinks he's really good at basketball and Michael Jordan's going to make him better. They're good at marketing. It's what they do. It's not going to hurt your kid necessarily. I think where it becomes the issue is when, like you said, they're characterized by always needing to have the newest thing, always needing to have the best one, always need to have what everybody else has. I think that's where you start to see issues. And really, I love that verse in 1 Timothy because I think typically where the church has sort of probably done some things wrong and just burned a lot of bridges. People are like, oh, you guys just care about, you're only quoting that because you want women to be modest. There's no standards for men. But he's actually not even talking about skin there. I mean, maybe it's insinuated. I think it kind of is. But he says, don't be immodest. What is immodesty? It's adorning yourself with jewelry. It's doing your hair, like braiding your hair elaborately. It's like these kind of weird things. But like you said, it's like it's not about modesty. It's about, are you just trying to draw attention to yourself? It has nothing to do with the price of your clothes. Because like, I mean, I have a really good friend, and he was so excited. He's married, but he's like, I just saved up like 5 months of fun money so I could buy my first pair of Carhartt coveralls. And I was like,
who's this
You're
friend?
really excited? He goes, yeah, because he's like, they'll last through anything. He's like, I keep ripping jeans. I'm like, you know what?
Reason.
Like, you spent $200 or $300, but it's not because he wanted like the Carhartt logo, because you can't even see it. It's like, I mean, they kind of look ugly in my opinion. But he's like, and call out Kyle. Like, Kyle loves his Carhartt coveralls too, and it's like they like him. This wasn't him. This was another guy, but they love him because they both do a ton of blue collar work. They're on their knees. They're in ditches, and it's like, I can put this stuff through anything. Like, I don't really give a rip about the names. It doesn't have to do with the price. Like, there's a difference between, you can pay for function, you can pay for quality, but it's when, I have to have a new Carhartt pair every 6 months because they just came out with a new color and all my friends are wearing it. And it's like, well, I think that's where you start to run into issues.
So I need to talk to Mom about her Hokas.
Oh, you do need to talk to your wife.
Yeah, she's breaking the bank. Lori, if you're listening, turn it off.
I thought. Well, so let's use Mom as an example. She loves to buy shoes. Sorry, Mom. I hope Mom doesn't listen to this episode.
And I love to pay for them.
Oh, you hate to pay for them. But what was interesting is she was like, is this an issue with me? Like, she's what? How old is Mom? 56?
58.
58?
We're old.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Oh, when you
Never
guys,
tell a woman's age. I don't know how old she is. I think she's 32.
Great save. Great save.
We'll cut that other part out.
Anyway, if you
Thanks,
are, but so
Gabrielle.
she does buy a lot of shoes, and part of it's probably just fun, and she needs always new shoes.
Yeah,
I don't know why Hoka is your statement if it's your statement, because I think they're ugly.
Plantar fasciitis. That's
Yeah,
what she's gonna
exactly.
say.
So she does have real issues, but
She does.
last year, 2 years ago, she's like, I'm not going to buy a pair of shoes all year. And it wasn't that it was this big issue where you had to sit down and be like, Lori, I think your identity's in your Hokas.
I didn't tell her anything.
I actually don't know, but yeah, I don't think you did. And like Jules and I this year, we're like, we're not buying any new clothes because we're like, we have enough, unless it's like a real need, and that can be discerned.
Yeah, probably won't happen.
But anyway, so like, we're not buying anything this year, and it's not because I'm like, we're finding our identity in clothes, but we're just like, it was genuinely November. I'm like, oh, we spent a lot on like stuff we probably didn't necessarily need,
Like normal brand T-shirts.
So, normal brand I buy for quality. You can't even see the brand on any of it. I just think it's high quality.
I just love teasing you.
But anyway, we're just like, these are things like I don't really need. Yeah. So let's just cut it all off, make sure it's not more of an issue, and then continue on from there. So it's not like, again, it's not just kids who do this. It's adults. We fall in the same traps, and I guarantee you, if you look at your life, you're probably doing things that are trends for the sake of the trend.
So how does the parent know if it is that? So Mom found out by just stopping, right? When we do the growing kids video, right, they say, when does a kid have the ability to make a choice? When they can handle not making a choice.
Yeah.
Same with adults. Same with our kids. When can they handle the more expensive shoe? When they can live with the cheaper shoe. Then it's like, yeah, you have extra money, you want to buy it? I don't care. Buy it. And they'll probably regret it in the sense of like, but it's a great lesson learned, as opposed to, let's buy the more fancy house because I want to impress my friends. Now we're in like, an extra $100,000 mortgage. Just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're parents. Keep going, Zane. What are you going to say?
Romans 12, 1 and 2. I'm going to read that real quick. Says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So in discipleship, that's really the mindset you want to instill in your son or your daughter. It's not that the trends are wrong necessarily. Some of them are. Right. But it's that our main focus, our main goal is that we want to be conformed to the image of Christ.
Yeah.
Sometimes that means saying no to these things because it could be a temptation to find our identity in that. For example, for me, for the longest time, having the nicest clothes were a big deal to me. And I'm not saying the trendiest clothes, but I had to have the nicest clothes bought at the higher retail stores.
Like Nordstrom's?
Yeah, kind of like that stuff.
Is that where you went?
I'm just teasing.
Not
I could
Nordstrom.
think of a
We don't
high-end
have
store.
one.
I went there for the first time last month. It's massive.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, Nordstrom's. If you're listening, sponsor us. Go ahead, Zane.
No, we want the normal brand to sponsor us.
Yeah. I'm not going to call out the place that I shopped, but I realized it was like an identity issue for me, because I felt like, wow, if people see me in this, they're really going to think I'm like hot stuff,
All
which
that in
is
a bag of
stupid
chips.
because nobody even probably knew
Cares.
that brand or cared.
Yeah.
But it was a hard issue. But that was something that God was gracious enough to kind of reveal to me. But I think I had been in that mindset for so long as a teenager, and nobody ever really pointed it out to me. Or actually, when I first came to Future Men working there were other things that I found my identity in. And he...
Was it?
Yeah. Well, one of them. That was just one of them.
You started working at Future Men.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
attracted
Well,
you.
I realized while I was there, because you brought to my attention, there was things that I was finding my identity in that weren't necessarily like wrong or sinful that I was doing or I was wearing, or even like how I would cut my hair or something.
Yeah.
But I just realized, man, I do really like look to these things to give me value.
Yeah.
And your kids are going to struggle with that, like every single one of them in some way. And it's not always clothes. Some kids could care less. So don't think, oh, because my kid doesn't really care about clothes, then like we're in the clear here. We don't have to really bring that up in discipleship, because there's going to be something else that comes up, whether it's music, like we talked about, or I think sports or athletics
Massive.
is a big one.
It could be something as stupid as like always having a new phone case, or like the cool, like it's really just why are you doing why are you making the choices you're making in your social life. So wait, I have a question for Zane. Zane, a lot of times, even in movies, you see this, and like books and stuff, is the kid, one of the reactions will be the parent says, okay, we're not wearing that. And they're like, well, this is who I am. Like, you're stopping me from telling people who I am. And you're not going to read them, Romans 12:1, probably. And if you did, they'd probably, sometimes it can just inflate the issue. So how do you guys respond to that? And whether it's in discipleship, or maybe you haven't been discipling your kids to this point and you just are now realizing like, oh, we need to address all this. How do you go about that?
Well, before you so rudely interrupted me and stopped me from interrupting Zane,
Wow.
I wanted to say on Romans 12:1 and 2,
Yeah.
because this is going to answer your question. It's kind of cool. This is a discipleship thing. So if your kid says that, right, hey, this is who I am, this is my identity. Romans says, right, I beseech you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, present your bodies a living sacrifice. What's a sacrifice? Zane, what's a sacrifice?
Sacrifice is when you
Think of Old Testament.
Yeah, when you basically it's like laying down a life.
Yeah.
For the payment
something
of
is
something.
dead.
Yeah.
Right? They cut the head off. They put it on the altar. It's burning. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The priests separate different parts of it out. That's the image that Paul's describing. But he says, oh, by the way, this is a living sacrifice. And there's a good friend of mine who once said, and I never forgot this, and I was like, man, that is so true. He said, the problem with the living sacrifice is it keeps crawling off the altar. And it's like, because the heat turns up and it's like, I'm out of here, right? Mm-hmm. So a living sacrifice, something's like causing you to like, it's burning, it's eating you up, right? So when your kid says, this is who I am, this is my identity, it's like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. And it's like, but it shouldn't be our identity, right? Again, so with one of my daughters, right, we're telling her the other day, it's like, okay, the cowboy clothes, like the Wrangler jeans, the belt buckle, the jean jacket, the hat, the cowboy boots. We're not like a ranch. Are those clothes wrong in and of themselves? No. You want to wear them once in a while to like, you're going to a square dance or you're going to an event where it's like, okay, people are going to wear this. It's like, it's kind of normal, whatever. But like everywhere you go, you have to be the cowboy or you feel like,
who am I?
Something's wrong. Yeah. Then your identity's in your appearance, which is like, that's not going to point to Christ. That's going to point to a culture. And it sounds so like, I wouldn't even say legalistic, but it sounds so like religious. Oh, if I don't point to Christ, then I'm bad. It's like, yeah, that's why it says a living sacrifice. Every action, every clothing choice, it kind of does say something about who are you living for. So, with my kid, it was like, I was telling her, none of these things are wrong. They're not even immodest. It's not too tight. You already know we don't let you wear tight jeans, right? It's not too, it doesn't reveal anything. These aren't midriff shirts. They're all good. You know, it's like, it's a button-up pearl shirt, for example. You know, it's like, that's a cowboy clothes. I like those. But every day, going to something that has nothing to do with like that type of clothing, if it's a necessity, it's a problem. If it's not a necessity, whatever. You wear it once in a while, I don't care. Right? There's been some things I've really liked, certain pair of pants or certain sweatshirt or whatever. And it's like, okay. But if I have to wear it every day and I have to wash it 3 times a week, or I'm insecure, I'm talking about your kids more than you, right? Then it's like, there's a problem, right? And it's like, that's what you want to address. And it's like, you want to get to the heart of like, what's missing here? Why are you not like okay with yourself if your hair isn't exactly perfect? Like, okay, this haircut was a little shorter than you anticipated, or the color didn't come out quite right, or, whatever. And it's like, now you can't be around people, or now you feel like, then it's said too much about that thing. It's why the Army shaves heads. Somebody said the other day as well, because people come in with lice, and I'm like, no, they shave heads because it like puts everybody on the exact same playing field. It's like we're all look like dorks.
Or why schools sometimes have uniforms.
Yeah, because it just takes away all the drama, and it does. Now, granted, they'll find new drama in the uniform. How high is my skirt? How white are my tights? For the boys, right? Like, does my collar stand up just perfect? It's like, because this is how we are as humans. We want to stand out. And we're just saying, as disciplers, right? We should be thinking, helping our kids understand you do stand out. I completely agree with you for who you are.
Yeah.
It's your character. It's your dedication to, obviously, to Christ, but even to the family, and even to wanting to please mom and dad. It's like, that shouldn't be like this. Oh, I would never say that. My kids, I want my kids to please me. I want my kids to want to please me, because ultimately that will in turn please God, because it's like, that's my goal. So what else?
Well, I think that's good for like a general like discipleship on this issue, especially for things that are just kind of neutral, neutral trends and stuff. Like, this isn't necessarily right or wrong. Like, it's not necessarily like evil, but then there's another layer, which is things that are now we're actually like representing something. We're actually representing a message here that is anti-biblical, anti-Christian. Right. Like maybe there's a celebrity whose lifestyle is very like wicked.
And Taylor Swift.
Travis Scott.
Why do I set myself up for this?
I don't know, but it's fun.
Yeah, but somebody who's living an openly wicked lifestyle, promoting that in their music or movies or something like that. I think that can become a little less of a gray area, and like mom and dad are kind of like being more subjective, and it's based off their opinion. And it's more like, well, no, there's actually a moral standard here that applies. So I think that needs to be taken into account too. And part of that is parents, you kind of have to be tuned in a little bit into the culture. Because I think there's some parents who are like innocently buying their kids.
100%. We see it at Future Men all the time.
Yeah.
Like, this clothing, I'm like, where'd you get this? My dad bought it. I'm like, he has no idea what this means.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the kids they know 100% what it means.
Yeah.
So,
or I think this I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for this, but like Grand Theft Auto, that video game, it's like parents will go and buy their like 10-year-old Grand Theft Auto. And I'm like,
do you know
like they literally simulate rape, they simulate theft, drug abuse, like running.
The whole
from
purpose of
the
the game
cops.
is to sort of be a gangster, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm like, you want your 10-year-old to be like acting this out?
they're really cool cars though.
Oh my gosh, it
You're
drives me
driving
crazy.
fast.
But I just think it's so foolish as a parent to think that they can just kind of be a fan of this type of a cultural phenomenon, and it's not going to impact them. It's not going to have an impact on their character or their reputation.
So if I could say one thing real quick. So Zane mentioned a verse a minute ago in 1 Corinthians about your body's a temple. Don't be afraid to talk to your kid about like the reality of that verse is talking about sexual purity and basically hooking yourself up with a temple prostitute. It's not about necessarily a tattoo or about smoking or about like, something along those lines. But the overarching principle of like honoring God with our body, that's a discipleship conversation.
Yeah.
That's whatever you do in word or deed, do all to the glory of God. right? That's taking every thought captive as unto the Lord. You're bringing in those other verses to build a case, not for your clothing choice, but for them to be able to like sift through, oh, is this worth it, right? Because they know when you're sort of like stretching. They just do. They're not stupid. And then as soon as they get out from underneath your house, if you haven't trained them to think through those things, but rather throw one verse at it, which really isn't in context what it's talking about, they leave it. So like at Future Men, I'm pretty honest with them about like, hey, look, you know what? Honestly, if you're like vaping, nicotine, is it the end of the world? Is your mind altered? I don't think enough to like make a big deal out of it. At 14, yeah, it's more about obedience. Do I vape nicotine? No. Do I want to? No. Am I promoting it? No. But I'm not going to tell you.
Can you imagine dad vaping?
But I'm not going to act like it's like this is an unbiblical thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw this verse at it. And it's like they know the difference. But you can tell them, hey, I think it's unhealthy. I think it like will make you associate with certain people. I don't want it. And I know you don't need it, right? It's not like your body lacks this. Eat more tomatoes or like, eat more spinach if you need the nicotine because it's in there. They don't want it. They might want the, if they're used to it, they might want that extra high dose of that. But it's all about just like us setting the standards for our homes. In the last podcast, we talked about, right, top 3 or 4 areas. This could be one of yours. It could be hairstyles for our boys, or it could be, the types of, clothing our daughters can wear, outside of the home. That's probably going to be top 3 or 5 in your home if you have like anybody over 11 years of age. So go through it now. Just sit down and say, what do we want? What are we not willing to ever have and why? And then we just sit down with the kids and say, okay, look, guys, here's the policy. Here's the consequences, known consequences, and we love you. And when you leave, yeah, you'll have some ability to buy some of those things that we don't think are the best, but you're definitely going to know it wasn't just mom and dad's rule that you chucked as you walked out the door. Here are the ramifications for that rule, which is why we had it in the first place.
Well, I think if you haven't listened to the previous episode, like you said, because it really does set the whole setting the standard. It goes through how to do that. But the other thing I was going to say is that this helps kids with, if like you said, don't like throw a verse at it and pretend like the Bible says you can't wear baggy jeans, because that's not true. But I think what you can do now, if it's obvious, like, like you said, like a designer that's obviously like living their lifestyle in a way that's anti-Christ essentially, or if it's a horrendously immodest outfit that is just, there's no question. It's just, you shouldn't wear that. Then you can talk them through the Bible verse or whatever. But sometimes it is just personal opinion, like the hat in the house thing. Like the reason I brought that up is like, I don't really think it's a sin. I wear a hat in my house sometimes. But you know what? I do.
You did.
But I'm like, I'm an adult. I've left and cleft.
Yeah.
But what do I do when I come home? I still take my hat off, and it's not about it's a sin. It's about like I can respect mom.
Yeah, what do I always tell you?
I don't know.
Put your hat back on. Your hair is greasy.
Oh well, yeah. If I wear, Anyway, thanks. Call me out of the podcast. What do you do? So there's this scene from The Last Samurai where they capture one of the samurai and they're like, we're going to humiliate him. So what do?
Cut his hair off.
They cut his hair off. And it was like the worst thing in the world to this kid. Rightfully so, because that was a huge thing in their culture. And you brought up the whole dressing like a cowboy thing. How do you teach kids to correctly represent themselves in the culture they're in while still not letting that become an identity?
Yeah.
Because you do want them to dress appropriately. You do want them to like if you have a 13-year-old boy who wants to grow his hair out because he thinks he's a samurai, probably need to address that because he's not, and it's not like his culture, So there is like, you do want to be culturally aware.
It's someone good. We like that.
We know a guy that we know a guy, and every time I see him in public, I'm like, I don't know why your wife let you leave the house today because you look like you got the 50-cent rack from the thrift store. Like the outfits are just, you know what I'm talking about? I think you probably do.
Keep going.
But thankfully I don't see it. Like if he's at church, he doesn't wear the same clothes. Like he'll wear jeans, he'll wear a nice button up, he'll wear, So how do you teach kids to be culturally aware and culturally appropriate while not letting that become an identity?
Okay, so Zane said a minute ago, over the decades things change, and I've run Future Men now 2.5 decades. So it's kind of interesting because we've seen, like, we used to have rules about can't wear baggy pants, and we had like very specific things on like how baggy they could be. And then it was like you can't wear skinny jeans. How tight could they be? And then it was, on and on and on. And then I realized, you know what? We just need one simple rule on pants. We just said they're the clothes that fit you appropriately. meaning like you have a waist size, you have an inseam.
Yeah.
They should fit you appropriately, period. Because then you're going to be able to function as a human. You're going to be able to walk normally, run normally, not be impeded one way or the other by your clothes, right? Not tripping up on your long pants that are dragging the ground behind you. Not like I can't bend over without ripping out the crotch in these, skinny jeans. It's like you just look like a normal person. Again, you're not drawing attention. Now, again, if they have like their own style and when they get older, they purchase a pair of, they're slightly smaller, whatever, right? You got to decide, okay, am I going to die on that hill? But as the parent supplying, subsidizing their choices, their lifestyle, their trends, you just got to ask, am I feeding an ego? Am I feeding a cultural norm? Or am I like just providing clothing for my kid so he can live in this world and function as a normal human being? So again, you can just tell them this, just talk to them about it, right? But have a normal conversation. And it's like, I don't even care what the culture is doing. And later on when you're on your own, you're out from under my roof, so to speak, and like you can do what you want, but I hope I've raised you to where you're actually just thinking it through. And it's like, what am I comfortable with and why? Right? And that's what you base your clothing choice on, not it's got to be every latest and greatest fad, because then every year you're changing your entire wardrobe, because you will be, right? It's baggier or it's tighter or now it's this color or that color. And it's like, don't worry about it. You're based on, you're a Boldman, you're a Christian, you're my son, right? Or you're my daughter. And it's like, we have family identity that revolves around, does this bring glory to God? You bring glory to God by functioning in your society, in your culture, just normally, right? You can be a light, salt and light wherever you go. And not the weird, we're the family that it's hilarious. I mean, I don't want to lose any listeners, but like a homeschool family, especially 10 or 15 years ago, you walk into a church together, it's like you can see them a mile away. They all looked exactly the same. Denim, white shirts,
button down,
certain haircuts.
tucked in.
Yeah. It's like, okay, that probably, I get why we did it. I shave all my boys' heads because this is easier. But it's like, again, if we're finding identity in that as a family, even, it's like, that's sort of like
just the exact same thing.
It's not too much different, and your kids will see through it. So again, it's like, okay, you may say, hey, we can afford one type of jean. I'm sorry, but that's where we're at financially. Shouldn't apologize for it. It's okay. Big deal. Right. And it's like, hey, I have to cut your hair because we can't afford to get haircuts. And dad kind of sucks at it. So we just shave the heads, or, it's the best we can do. A kid grows up in that. He's going to be very secure in like, maybe not with his peers, but he'll be very secure in like, this is who I am. This is who my family is. Right. And it's like, I'm not too worried about what everybody thinks.
Clue them into the fact that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, I think that that point you just made, where you actually are communicating that to them, and that's what you're doing, is huge, because there's so many kids that I think leave their home, and especially if it was like a strict one where there's a lot of structure, a lot of rules, and they may walk away with kind of the flip side of this, which is, well, my identity was this,
right?
My identity was like this family and like what we did, and now I'm questioning all that, and so I think if you can avoid that or make it easier for that kid to make that transition by communicating, hey, this is what we do. This is why we've chosen to do this. And it's fine. Like, as a parent, you have to base your parenting decisions off of your personal convictions, but just be honest that that's your personal conviction to them.
Yeah.
And one day they're going to have to come to their own conviction on it, because if they walk away from your home believing that having a buzzed head is more holy, then I think you fail to communicate that well. And that kind of going back to one of our earlier episodes can play into a kid's whole identity crisis or like a faith crisis, because they may have conflated things with Christianity that are really just like family standards and rules.
And there's nothing wrong with family standards and rules.
No.
I think it's fantastic. Just make it clear what's what.
Call them what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Zane, we're quickly wrapping up, getting close to the end here. Zane, you wrote on here that parents shepherd hearts, not wardrobes.
What does that mean? That sounds really holy.
Doesn't that sound nice?
That sounds very
Put some feet to that, Zane.
Shepherding Your Child's Heart. Paul David Tripp wrote this book. It's a really good book. That's what kind of gave me the idea.
Paul, if you want to come on the podcast, we're available anytime. Want to get work.
Yeah. So it's kind of a summary of what we've been talking about. It's not that your main objective is to go into your kid's wardrobe and be like, okay, this is approved, this is not approved. That shouldn't be your main objective as a parent. Your main objective should be to shepherd their heart into making those decisions for themselves. Because of what I just said, they're going to leave your house one day and they're going to have to come to their own convictions on things. And if you haven't taught them how to arrive at those convictions, then they're going to kind of
Go experiment.
Yeah. And they may go down a road that's like, oh my gosh, how did they get there? Well, unintentionally, you might have prepared them for that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Makes great sense.
Well, I think it goes back to, we've talked a lot about on this podcast that your goal can never be to raise the perfect family, because that's all about you. And your goal has to be, am I stewarding my family and raising a family that glorifies God above and before anything else? And again, like you said, it's sort of like soft and trite, but it really gets to the heart of the issue with this whole thing, which is that if you do become the guy that's just like, we don't wear pink, we don't wear shorter than 4 inches above the knees, blah, 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 it can quickly become legalistic and hard, and you are going to probably burn some bridges with your kids in the way they view that, versus you have standards, but they come from a spot of like, we're trying to glorify God to the best of our ability, which means we're probably going to change things eventually and back and forth on some things, and that's okay. I think it just shifts the perspective from we do this for the sake of doing it to we do this because we're called to sacrifice ourselves, like you guys talked about, and sort of lay down our own personal thoughts on, I really want to wear Gucci because that's what everybody else wears.
Yeah, and I think be okay with like your kids are going to be a little maybe weird on their own a little bit. I can remember when I grew up, I mean, I would not wear any type of shoe if it wasn't a cowboy boots. I mean, and my dad didn't tell me that, right? It wasn't like a rule in our family. My mom used to make me want to wear these white Sunday church shoes. I hated them. I would spend Saturday night cleaning those boots. I mean, they would be beautiful, and mom would be like, white shoes. I felt like a little, I can't say it online, but I felt dumb, and I would want to cry. And I remember this. I was like 8 probably. But it's like when I went to California.
You said 18?
Well, here's the funny thing. At 16, we moved to California from rural Ohio, right, to like Southern California in the 80s. And week 1, probably day 1, they started calling me Roy Rogers at the high school that I went to in California. And I'm like, I'm not Roy Rogers. And then I look in the mirror. I had on this puffy vest. This is the 80s. Cowboy boots every day. Jeans every day. Some kind of a button-up shirt. I'm like, I am Roy Rogers. So I had to think through, okay, well, who do I want to be? Right? And I realized, oh, there's tennis shoes. They're more comfortable for walking down the street. Oh, there's different types of pants. I would never wear shorts. And if I did, I wore cowboy boots with the shorts. And it's like, I had to figure that stuff out. Now, we weren't allowed to wear like, my family had some kind of rules. There were not very many in the 80s. But it was like, they just kind of let us wing it, I guess. And a lot of mistakes along the way. So disciple your kids through their clothing.
You might still be in one of those mistakes.
I probably am.
You could be in them one right now.
Nope, I don't have my Uggs on. Actually, I do.
I want to know the story about when the Uggs came into be.
Oh. Like and subscribe if you love Uggs. You're not a girl. I know it sounds horrible. Anyway, different story.
Anyway,
but that's just parenting, and that's okay. Like your kids can be a little weird. Like my oldest son loved to wear hats with little flashlights in the brim, or a belt with
sounds like
a survival kit. And it's like
Eagle Scouting.
Oh, my Boy Scout.
It's
era.
okay. Well, you know what? It's like they aren't wrong, but if your identity is always in that, and you're the kid that wears those to a church picnic, and you're like, we're not in the woods hiking, dude. Leave it in the van. Right? That's you as a father helping your son determine appropriateness for what you have on.
Yeah.
Right? Because it does matter. And again, just discipleship.
To sort of wrap that up, what do you guys have as a rule of Future Men for activities and clothing?
Oh, yeah. We say the clothing has to fit the activity.
Yeah.
So it'll literally be 90 degrees outside, and we're going to go play Ultimate Frisbee, and a kid will come out going to the van in a black hoodie, black pants, these dumb work boot type shoes. I'm like, you realize it's 90 out, or you want to wear a beanie. I'm like, nope, sorry. Because to them, it's all about, I have to look like the cool, angry kid. No, go put on the goofy shorts that your mom packed. Wear your tennis shoes that you don't like. Nobody knows you.
Shorts.
Nobody cares. Right. And then they get used to it. And then they realize, yeah, nobody really does care. And not in a mean way, just like I'm not being judged everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So the world isn't all about me. And honestly, that is the bottom line that we want.
And
to
I think
convey.
that's the best thing you can teach your kids, because I think a lot of parents feel bad, like I'm being too restrictive or they can't express themselves.
Yeah.
And that's not the reality. The reality is you're teaching them that their expression doesn't come from how they look. And that's the best thing you can teach your kids, because otherwise you're setting them up for failure. Because their looks are going to fail, whether it's clothes or hair or old age or whatever.
Yeah, welcome to getting old is like the worst thing ever. Now it's the best, I guess. I still don't believe that. But it's like, my own vanity. This is played out in everybody's life.
Yeah.
And as you get older and you can't hide the wrinkles, or you're losing the hair, or you're like, your back hurts, whatever. It's like how you were brought up. If everything was based on, I am like the best representation of my age group, right? Or I think I am. Your reality is going to smack you right in the head.
Hey, it's okay. I feel like this is personal now.
It is.
I feel like we're touching it.
Yeah,
remember what Jules told me when we first started dating, or it was a little bit into it, that if you grow up and look like your dad, we'll do just fine.
Oh, good. She's right.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to hear from the girl you're dating.
Hey, shout out to Jules. Jules, if you're listening, I love you.
Jules, please sponsor us.
You're the best. She does sponsor. She sponsors you.
She actually does.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions, because this is a massive issue, and not like a massive home wrecking issue.
Every family, though.
You're gonna, it's always gonna be a part of the conversation.
Yes.
You can always send us questions at futurefamiliesmedia.com. It really helps us if you comment on these episodes and if you like them and interact with them, because it shows YouTube or whatever you're listening on.
Or if you hate on them.
That's true. It does help. So if you need to hate on them, hate on them. But it just shows us, even if you comment stupid things, it just helps the algorithm. So if you would comment and then share this with your friends, send it to somebody you feel like could gain from it. Send it to someone whose outfit choices you think need help.
Me.
I'll send it to you. Other than that, join our school group. It's the first link in the show notes. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Well, on that note, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Peace out.
Goodbye. Sayonara.